Welcome to the Reality Therapy Podcast, where the truth will set you free.
Welcome to the Reality Therapy Podcast. We have a great panel today to talk about the spicy topic of pornography and porn addiction. I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves, starting with ladies first. Go ahead, Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sara Stockton. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist out of New York State.
Hi, I'm Megan Holder. I'm a licensed professional counselor in South Carolina.
You should probably go, Judah, since you've got a...
Juda Alcabes. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I specialize in sex and porn addiction.
You mean Dr. Juda Alcabes?
Thank you. Yes. I was being humble about it.
My name's Adam Luke. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I've been working in sexual addiction for about 10 years.
Awesome. So we all have some connection to the topic of pornography or how the internet is affecting our sex lives, relationship lives, intimacy, how we understand these things. And I guess the first topic to touch on is how is I feel like there's developments in the field before we get into addiction and things like that. I'm reading this book actually, Your Brain on Porn, and it's very enlightening to me. But one of the things they keep harping on is how different internet pornography is from a Playboy from back in the day. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. The internet porn is not only too fast for our brains to handle. It also is manipulative, just like any other social media app is designed to keep you engaged. So between those two features, that didn't exist in a magazine, in the past. It didn't even exist in a VHS or a DVD. But now it's too much content that's too potent, too fast, which is designed to manipulate you to engage in the site for longer. And so, the impact is that people are staying with the intense porn for much longer, and their brains can't handle it. And there's alterations in their arousal and their brain chemistry very quickly. And people don't realize it. They just kind of think oh, this is, it's enjoyable. But within a short amount of time, and I've seen this, and I'm sure you guys have seen it too, people progress into, sexual behaviors that are shocking to them. And at the same time, they're not stopping that behavior. So, in the past, the sex addict before the internet was somebody who was, kind of roaming around Times Square, going from shop to shop, and was, lost in a trance like that. And, now it's this, it could be anybody who's just, their brain got hijacked and now they can't get it back. Stunned into silence. What happened?
No, I think that's a really a great explanation. I think maybe where the concept of having this panel came into play was on some Twitter conversation, and the question was, is pornography and sex addiction, is it merely a substitute for intimacy? And there was some argument which way about it. And I'm actually here because I'm curious to learn what y'all think and what you have seen. So Judah, would you say that it is a substitute for intimacy, or is there more to it? Is it more like a chemical addiction versus like a process addiction now that we've added in the technology and even some of the AI?
Yeah, I would, on a first glance, I would fall on the side of it is a replacement for intimacy. A lot of my training very much focused on that. And just kind of anecdotally, what I'm seeing, what I think a lot of other professionals and not even professionals are seeing, is just a lack of pursuing of intimate relationships, especially on the male side of things, right? The idea that somebody could be in their late 20s and never have approached a female, right? And not because of some external issue, right? Like some neurodivergent thing or whatever that makes it that they're, they don't understand social dynamics. It's the average, the average guy or the average kid is essentially they have this yearning to be in a relationship, and then they kind of take care of it, right? With, low cost to them, and, really intense and possibly really enjoyable. And then they move on. And so, like, they're basically getting like 0.001% of intimacy, which is not actual intimacy because there's no intimacy with a computer screen, right? And so, uh, then they're like kind of using up that energy, and they're not going out like to meet a girl at the ice cream parlor, like go meet a girl. Like, that's why I tell people, I'm like, go talk to a girl, right? Like, don't tell me that you're like, oh, I'm just happy with the way my life is. Like, you're not. You're just using up an energy which is supposed to be used to help you grow, right? So that's kind of the way I see it, is that there's a lot of young people that are using it as a replacement for intimacy. And then in later stages in life too, that it becomes, instead of, working things out of my marriage, like this kind of like, fills that for a little while. So I see it very much on that side, and I seem to have missed that Twitter debate because I would have loved it.
I mean, jumping in on, I think that sometimes, I think why that Twitter debate went where it went was because people are deathly afraid to admit that there's intimacy that is in a transactional pornographic relationship. And so when we start navigating the fact that, like, this isn't just as cut and dry as they would like to say in consumption of created material, it's actually, when you see how people will fight tooth and nail to maintain their addictions, they're in a relationship with their phone, with their computer screen, with pornography. And I think that, like, we were just joking before we came on here, Megan, with the fictosexual side of things. Like, there are people that are very much in these relationships that they aren't even aware of when it comes to the consumption of pornography.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember an article that I read probably 10 or 12 years ago about a Japanese developer who was making an AI girlfriend. And the quote that they had in the New York Times was, this is the 0.5 of relationships. You don't need to go all in, but you get the good stuff. That was literally what they said. And I was like, that's this entire industry, is we're selling you a better version without you having to go through the hard stuff. Right. And you think that you're getting the better version, but really you're missing out on growth and life and connection. And, so that's the way they make the industry. That quote blew me away. I couldn't believe it. I was like 10, 12 years ago. Yeah.
Well, I also think what's very difficult is not only like the porn aspect. You could say, yeah, it's impacting people, and men and women, arousal is different, and so it's not really set up for even women's arousal. But then I was thinking when you were speaking, well, OnlyFans is a pseudo relationship now. So I mean, one would argue, and I have a lot of people who are on OnlyFans, that they have pretty deep relationships with real people who are sharing real, intimate parts of themselves. And, is that considered porn? Is that considered a relationship? Is a situationship, a bizarre dynamic, right? I mean, I think those things are, more and more coming in our room in terms of mirroring a real life dynamic that's not in real life.
Yeah, OnlyFans almost capitalized on something that, like, when I was, it was funny to just say, like, when I was just dealing with prostitutes, but this was the reality of, like, when my clients would come in and they were just using call girls, escorts, prostitutes, that something that came out of that is called the girlfriend experience, right? But now you have the online fans situation where the girlfriend experience is now actually a subscription. And like you said, there's actually, I mean, some of these people are my clients, and to hear them say, like, oh, I have AI that writes the responses to all of the private messages, and I've got an engagement that goes on with this, and they're very aware of there's a relationship that I'm building and projecting, and people are just willing to sort of buy down the extremely watered down relationship of this feels like I have closeness, but I don't.
Well, and right. And ultimately the individual maintains control over the relationship. And that's really where we grow the least, right? It's that we expand by being in a relationship through being forced almost to, utilize a part of ourselves that we would rather not use, like
Yeah.
when I wake up at 3 in the morning, I mean, my kids are not babies anymore, but like when I wake up at 3 in the morning to take care of one of my kids, right? Like I don't want to be up at 3 in the morning. And there's a very cranky part of me and there's a very upset part of me. And then through repetition, I grew not only to love my children even more through all of those experiences, but I grew as a person through that. So,
Correct.
it kind of reminds me of the movie Click. You remember that movie Click?
Ah,
Yeah. Right. He fast
yeah.
forwards through all
Ooh.
the boring parts of life. And then in the end, he realizes like, oh my God, I forwarded through life and this remote was damaging me. Right.
That's so fascinating. Your analogy is better than mine. The one I use with guys who come to me with porn addiction is Star Wars. And I was like, if you saw a video, like a 5-second video of the Death Star exploding, you're like, whoa, that's a cool explosion. But you don't know about how the Empire killed Luke's family and how he went on this whole quest, Like, it's like if you watch porn, you had this, like, watching the Death Star explode, but you didn't get to cry with her when her relative died. And you didn't get to have this argument that you worked through. You didn't have all the tough times that made that explosion meaningful, to pardon the pun.
Yeah, that's totally valid. I totally I'm aligned with that because it's like you need to live the story in order for the end of it to have meaning, right?
When I work with people, I'm always like, what did you do that was so sexy for you to get that? Like, what did you have to do? So you aren't doing anything like, it's not really loving yourself. And that's back to is it an addiction thing? I always say, well, it's not as easy as yes or no, but when there's a compulsion element with this, then yeah, this is where we're getting towards the addiction. A lot of people don't realize that this actually that turns into a compulsion because they can't feel balanced or centered without kind of getting off. And so that's where it continues to amp up.
But I find the addiction conversation to be sometimes very, very helpful and then sometimes to be a total distraction. Right. And I think we've all kind of like sat with clients who are like trying to define whether it's an addiction or not. And I'm like, dude, you're sleeping on your friend's couch because you got kicked out of the house. So call it whatever the hell you want, but it's not working. Right. Yeah. And so like I think the addiction debate sometimes is semantic and doesn't really help us. And then sometimes I think it's very important for somebody to be like, hey, one of my clients, we talk about this all the time. He came into group. He's been in my group for years. He came into my group after being in a group for 2 years. And he said, I have an announcement to make. I cannot trust myself with the internet. And that was such a big moment because he wasn't saying that there is this thing that's addiction and I've figured it out or that I messed up, or he was just like, me, I know myself. When I have open internet, it doesn't go good. And that was like a huge moment for him. And we always reference that where it was like, you took ownership of your life, right? So the addiction, like back and forth, sometimes I get a little bit like annoyed with it actually, where I'm like,
yeah.
all right, call it whatever you want, guys. But there's people who haven't left their house in 6 years because all they do is watch porn. Like,
I love asking them the feeling side of it. Of
Yeah.
like, okay, so you're locked up on, is it addiction? Is it not addiction? Whatever that might be. Is it good or is it bad for you? Like, does it make you feel joy or do you feel at a deficit? Like,
Yeah.
walk me through that. Because then we at least talk about to what you're pointing there is like, it's maladaptive. We can at least say it's not good for you.
Right.
But then what is interesting is watching how I've had to navigate that with clients of like, well, but this is supposed to be sexually liberating.
Yes.
Like, no, like how it, like, and so we get into that whole field of like, I'm actually encouraged to do this. And I mean, I'll tell you, about a third of my practice is working with individuals who are in the adult entertainment industry. It wasn't a niche that I developed. It just, you get one that likes you, and then before you know it, you get everyone. And so something that's interesting is while I sit with extremely successful individuals in their industry, the question that they're wrestling with is, everyone tells me that I should be loving this, but I actually want that relationship. I want to have monogamy. I want to have these certain things. But how do I do that when I'm also the face of sexual liberation?
Yeah. And that's where I think the addiction conversation is a distraction because when we're deciding whether it's an addiction or not, we're basically saying that there is a version of this, which is, okay, you want to debate whether it's okay or not. You want to talk about shame, all that kind of stuff. But usually what it's doing is it's splitting it into two camps. It's splitting it into addiction or liberated, right?
Mm,
And that I'm not okay with, because there are a lot of people who maybe they don't call themselves addicted, but they don't understand how potent and how
mm.
manipulative today's sexual content online is. So they think they're being liberated, and they're like, I don't have an addiction, so this is great for me. I'm liberated. And I'm like, do you understand that there's porn companies that have meetings about the engagement, that they look up to search terms and they try to define exactly what you need to see on your screen to keep you there for longer, right? You are getting owned by these companies. And so like you're not liberated at all.
Yeah.
Okay, and see, I haven't dealt with a whole lot um of the porn side of things, but I have had more clients come in with the virtual relationships. And so I have been curious for some time about how those two circles might overlap. And the way you're describing the porn, it kind of sounds like they're just the same circle. Like, if that
I
makes
mean,
sense. Like, I almost thought we almost needed a Venn diagram that like had a porn
true.
circle, had an AI girlfriend circle, and then had like a virtual relationship circle, and like where do they all meet in the center? But it's kind of sounding like it's just all the same thing, all one big circle that does
So
boil
it's
down
been like an
to
evolutionary process
Yeah. It's
where
just,
these things have just sort of developed. And now when you get to the AI side, I feel like the reason why there's so much money being poured into this is you can't prosecute AI for prostitution, but you can own the AI that creates it. And what's interesting is hearing how my clients will articulate that they have extremely emotionally intimate relationships with the AI. I mean, even when these AIs are specifically targeting sexually explicit material, they're having full-fledged relationships with them. And what's interesting is then to say, well, but your wife is sitting next to you, or she's in the next room, or so walk me through that. And here's the other challenge I think we're going to have to navigate with AI is so complementary, right? So like if I guarantee you, my wife is trying to bathe 2 children under the age of 3 right now. If I walk over there and say, how you feeling tonight? She's going to hit me. Okay. So like, but if I go
He's
to
not going
my,
to say, great question.
yeah,
Thanks
no,
for
she's
asking.
like, it's, yeah, there will be no introspection. And so, but at the same time, AI never calls me out on my bullshit. I can just get the instant gratification I need out of it, that I'm a good person and I'm pursued, without having to actually put any of the risk out there.
But yeah, and I was telling Ryan earlier, I mean, one of the things with the AI connection is that I'm having a lot of clients that will take pictures, like take your picture as your therapist, your teacher, and then it will make you naked. And they're like, that's how I get comfortable with people. That's how I'm taking away the power in a room. I'm already seen all these girls naked. I've AI'd it. I've already seen it. I've AI'd them like sucking me off, right? And so I have 16-year-olds are like, look at my teacher giving me head. And you're like, oh, well, that's a new way of doing this stuff.
I love it. You're using it like the clinical terms. That's a strategy.
That's the way of how we do it. But I mean, that is what's going on, and they've only had interactions with porn. And so many of the kids, I work with a lot of dysphoric kids, they tell me, men and women, but women, it comes that they transitioned because they realized they were prey online. Like, oh, I'm a sexual object. I was made very much aware of that through my algorithm, and the way to unsexualize myself is transition. And so there has been a very heavy emphasis on like exposing yourself to the world. And I think too, I mean, this is kind of maybe taking it even farther, but when porn isn't enough, so I have 22-year-olds that porn's not enough anymore. So now we got to jerk off to the Hinge dates, possible dates, and we don't even see them. We got to get humiliated and get paid paying people to humiliate me because porn is just not doing it anymore. So that's what's been really scary to me, is the amount of 25-year-olds that porn was their gateway drug to everything else. And like, it's really hard to come back from that.
Yeah, and it doesn't then go to, porn is not doing it for me anymore. Maybe I should go socialize and meet someone. It doesn't go to that because they've never taken that risk, right? And they don't feel that they need to take that risk. So they're like, okay, so what's exciting to me, which I can still control and not have to take any risk of my social self, of my emotional self. So then you need to find something else, but you're staying in control. And I think that's a big part of any virtual relationship, even if it's between two people, is I can shut you off, right? And like, you can't shut off your spouse when they're you can't do it, right? And so like maybe sometimes it'd be
You
great
don't get
if
to
you
close
could,
the app.
Well,
but we don't grow through that, and we just stay selfish, and we stay just that things need to be tailor made to me. Like I tell this to people all the time. Like in general, I think in our culture we treat relationships like streaming services, where we're like, I have like 1,000 of them, and like, okay, so I didn't use Peacock for a month. Whatever. Peacock's not offended. Then I can turn it back on when a show that I like is now streaming on Peacock. Like, that's not how people work, and that's not how we work either. We need to be in relationships that we nurture. And if we're just like, well, when you do something for me, I'll nurture you. Like, no, then you have nothing. Then you're just a streaming service for that person.
Yes.
Well, and I've even seen it invade couples. So like it's
Mhm.
not just individuals who have never been in a relationship, but like couples who think, oh, we'll do this AI thing. It'll be a fun role play. It'll build intimacy, and they get hooked on it. And then over time, it completely degrades the intimacy in the couple.
Yes.
Because he's more interested in the AI version of the wife, because the AI version of the wife is the perfect idealized wife, and she's more interested in the AI version of the husband, because he tells her everything she wants to hear, and then they're no longer coming back and connecting with the real individual.
Yeah, and I think there's, like you said, it could be like, oh, this is a low risk thing to invite someone in that way because it's not real. But I had an African American couple, and they did that, and they brought in an Asian AI, right? So the Japanese, they made the AI girl Asian. Now, I mean, that wife's never getting over it. There's no like, my husband really wants an Asian. Now I know it. And this is the AI that proves it. And I will never be able to give him that. And so it's like,
And when going back to like that Venn diagram, like whether it's AI, whether it's porn, whether it's escorts, like this is also that like central theme here of there's a throuple that ends up happening out of this, regardless. You, your spouse, and this thing. And there ends up being everyone's having fun till the music stops and someone's without a chair. And that's where we're sort of at, where to your point, Megan, I mean, it blows me away, and it doesn't, that like we also are being told socially that like marriage is boring and you have to find something to spice it up. Yet most of the options that are peddled to us have high risk, low reward, right? Something that I work with males who will seek me out because of ED. And so they're having trouble maintaining erections. What's interesting is I always ask, like, let's go through that sexual ritual of like you and your wife having intimacy. What is it like? To Juda's point, it looks a lot like the intro to a porn scene, right? There's lingerie, there's a vibrator, there's like, all right. But I sit there and I go, okay, well, where does the emotional self come into this? I love to use IFS in this process. And a lot of times the guys will stare at me like, I'm sorry, who's that person? It's like, no, we have to recognize that there is a very much an emotional experience that happens sexually. I actually believe, and the studies show it, that the emotional satisfaction of the relationship is what makes the orgasm so amazing. I think that in a committed relationship, you have the best orgasms on the face of the planet. But that's not what's being sold to us. We're being told that's the traditional life. And so how do we bridge that gap? And one thing has been like an intervention that I'll use with my couples of like, just do me a favor, get in bed, get naked, and don't have sex. And what's funny is everyone fails the test, right? Why? Because they're like, oh, we haven't traced each other's outlines in years. I haven't looked like the thing that broke my heart recently is when a person said, I didn't even remember that she had had the C-section. And it was like, wow, like these things that like they're not limitations. They're actually the assets of the relationship. Wow, what this woman has given for us to have a family, right? And then it's like, well, how was the sex? It was the best sex we've had. Both of them did that independent surveys. It's like, no shit, Sherlock. But we got to get back to like, there's actually emotions in sex instead of it just being a workout routine.
I had a really weird opportunity to show my client that being on podcasts, it's sort of a weird dynamic in the room. And I had a client who said, it's really uncomfortable, Sarah, that I have to share you with other people. And I said, oh, why don't you feel about Cindy on the porn site? And he looked at me and he was like, oh, you got me. I was like, yeah, there's something to that. Like, wow, like you're feeling that I'm being exposed and just used by other clients that don't even deserve me. And, you do that with porn all the time. And he was like, oh, geez, like that's a fair point.
I didn't want introspection. I was making a statement.
Right.
I'll say this before I go because I'm an idiot with the timing. On the last point that you were making, Adam, about the intimacy, and emotions in sex, for a very, very long time, that has been a trope in society, is that men are not emotional when it comes to sex, right? And the trope in so many movies of like, you're one pussy for the rest of your life, bro. Like, how many times have we seen that movie? Like 1 trillion times, right? And like, I always challenge people when if they're pushing back really hard on me, they're a man and they're saying sex is not emotional. I'm like, have you ever talked dirty? Have you ever had role play? Have you ever had something which like was, enhanced by somebody calling you a certain name or something like that? Right? Like, okay, have you ever had that with a hamburger? Like, like I'm gonna eat this hamburger and while I eat it, you say, oh, daddy, you're eating that hamburger so well. And it makes the hamburger taste better, right? Like it's not the same as other pleasures because it's not just purely physical. There's an emotional component to it. And the idea of foreplay is that you play with the other person, right? And you create together and you expose yourself emotionally through the discovery of play. And when it comes to porn, it's not shared play because it's all controlled by one person, the person who's clicking, right? So
Correct.
Even if there's a playful component to the porn they're watching, it's not shared play, right? It's like, you're playing with somebody and they go, no, that's not a good idea. Let's do it like this. And they keep doing that. At a certain point, you're like, I guess I'm here to serve you. And that's what porn is. It's there to serve the watcher, but it's not connector. It's not a connector because there's no play involved in it. And then they come to their spouse and they're like, I can't maintain an erection. I think I need Cialis. And I'm like, no, dude, you gotta play with your wife. You got to open up a little bit. You got to not have so much anxiety about the perfect orgasm, right? And then maybe you'll actually start to enjoy it instead of trying to control it. With that, I must go to my Eastern time zone, which I live in. And next time I will learn how Central Time works.
Thank you so much for joining us, Dr.
Thanks for having me,
Alcabes.
guys. I wish I could stay longer. All right.
Adios, doctor.
Bye-bye.
Why is he doing sessions at 8:30 at night?
I don't know.
Because the man grinds.
Oof.
Yeah.
But to our corporate sponsor, In-N-Out, which is poor product placement for this night.
So, kind of back to what Megan was saying is where this conversation originated. I think it was on Twitter with like me and Dr. Patrick Lockwood going back and forth. We've had a number of these debates.
Well,
is that right?
You two were commenting on some video of one of these like super well-known psychologists who makes all these trendy TikTok videos. And he said something along the lines of intimacy is the cure for any addiction. Or all, like, do you remember?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Intimacy is the cure for any and all addiction. And then, well, that point is really debatable. And then it became a really interesting debate. And I kind of made a tongue-in-cheek joke that, like, well, maybe he meant porn addiction is like intimacy is the cure for porn addiction, because I'm truly curious if it might be, because that is kind of what I've seen with the virtual and the AI relationships. Is the virtual and the AI is absolutely, in my opinion, 100% of the time a substitute for intimacy that they would rather have with a real person, but there's just some kind of issue or a block that's preventing them from actually going out and engaging in and finding someone, a real person to be intimate with.
Mhm.
But that's just
Well,
my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd like to hear
I
some
don't think
feedback.
that I don't think that you're wrong. I think that um I've been working in addiction for a while now, and there's the problem whenever the government decides to invest into something is they get locked down on what direction they want to go when it comes to addiction or substance use or whatever it is. And I feel like we've looked so much at like chemical imbalances, that we've moved away from the fact that most addiction behind it also has a social element to it. Like when we look at like alcoholism, when we look at heroin use, when we look, it's not necessarily just the substance. And I think that we forget that essentially people are using addiction as like the original meta universe. It's a way to escape the reality that I don't want to sit in, that I don't want to recognize. I feel lost in my world. These are ways to escape. And I think we're only going to continue to see that fall into place as we have more and more of society moving online, where like, I work with clients all the time that love their avatars more than themselves. Like, and
Yeah.
they're feeding this thing. And when you really start reducing it, it's because they feel, well, it'd be impossible for me to get this level of confidence in my real life because I don't get to restart the game, or I don't get to rewrite my bio and just, oh, now I'm a different person. Um, so, I mean, I had a talk that I was going to do for TED Talk before COVID hit, and it was instead of it was I'm addicted to trauma, because most of my clients in addiction
Yeah.
were their addiction was coming out of those relational, those socio uh styles of their lives. I mean, I think that if we look at it from people are running away from their relationships a lot, there might be some groundwork there.
Mhm. Okay,
I
and
think.
something
Oh,
else that I
go
had
ahead.
seen that I'm really not sure about, so I'm curious what other people think is of the very small like population of clients that I've had that have discussed their porn use. Um, it always seems that when I ask, like, okay, when you say porn, like, what exactly do you mean? That the genre that they are watching or the thing that they're interested in is somehow like analogous or directly related to the clinical issue that brought them into therapy, like the psychodynamic
Whoa.
issue. Yeah. So if you're a person who like needs control, you might be more drawn to like the BDSM kind of thing. Um and like say you're a young guy with like mom issues, you might find the older women stuff more attractive. Like, and so, and I don't know if that's like a thing for everybody, but so I'm curious about it because it seems to me that what they're drawn to also seems to be another basic, like, relational need in their life that's missing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also kind of alarming because, I mean, without additional training, we don't get really taught to even talk about this. So, majority of counselors I know wouldn't even ask someone what their genre of porn is, right? And I would assume that a lot of times we don't get told the truth right away, at
Well,
least
that's
in
also probably true.
yeah. So, but I would say, yeah, maybe it does connect with it. Sometimes I wish it did and it didn't. Like their genre has nothing to do with what's going on in, or I mean, not directly, but I also think it's really impacted the bisexuality and the fluidness of our sexuality because now, like, transgender porn is the number one category, and that's the first time it's bumped like MILF, and then it's bumped stepfather, and incest has been top forever. And I really think it's, both the best of both worlds. So I'm used to seeing a vagina and a penis when I get off. So now I want to see that, and that's where the transgender porn becomes key. And so I've seen a lot of people's sexuality get really confused because a men will tell me, well, I only get off to gay porn. Like, it's the only way I get off. But I'm not gay. And so that's a newer thing. And with women, I've seen a great deal of impact, and I don't think in a necessarily positive way, with their gay erotica that women are getting off to gay men too. And so we have two groups equally getting off to gay sex.
Straight women are getting off to gay male
Oh,
stuff?
big time. That's a big genre. That is.
South Park made an episode joking about it.
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, count yourself lucky that you don't know this stuff, Ryan. Like, that's a.
Well, you've never gone to an erotica convention? I have.
I just deal with the simple stuff like heroin addiction.
The only way I know about it is the South Park episode. I was watching, and then I was told.
I wasn't judging you, Megan. You don't have to tell me how you know this. I mean, so here's the crazy thing: is like Pornhub just released. So Pornhub every year, believe it or not, releases a ton of statistics.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is seeing in the last couple of years that, well, since COVID, they've been like miffed on like, we don't know what this data is, but we're releasing it and we don't know it. And so the one thing that came out of their data dump this year was watching more porn makes you gay. Yep. And they were like, we don't like, and so much so that the CEO was like, we don't want to be caught saying that we're saying it makes you gay.
Yeah.
But if you watch pornography 5 times a week, you've got a 36% chance you're gay or bisexual.
Yep.
And they're like, but and it's interesting because they don't come out and say it, but they're like, wow, the heterosexual single male who watches porn once a week pretty much stays within the category of being hetero, right? But as that consumption increases, they're also seeing it, and they brought out the other, like the fact that females, same way. All of a sudden, the bisexual increases dramatically once you really get over 3 or 4 days of consumption.
That reminds me, I talked to Laura Becker. I don't know if any of you know her, but she's a somewhat famous detransitioner. And she said part of what lured her into the trans thing was gay pornography and like imagining like, I'm really a gay man, so I need to transition so I can join this kind of world.
Yes. There's a freedom that people describe with the gay sex that nothing else meets.
I don't understand that. Wow. So I want to get back on the issue of addiction a little bit, because this is an issue that I've gone back and forth with Dr. Patrick Lockwood, who's very intelligent. I just come down on a different side from him. He says that pornography cannot be an addiction. He says it's just an issue of shame, kind of like almost like this outdated kind of puritanical morality thrust on people. And to me, it's like it's almost irrelevant if someone is very religious, not religious at all, atheist. To me, it just seems like very similar to a drug in that they're taking like a hit of something. Does that make sense?
I mean, do you think you can be addicted to caffeine?
We didn't talk about caffeine, but he basically said he wouldn't believe in like gambling addiction, sex addiction, no process addiction, only chemical addiction. And to me, it's like
a very strong distinction between chemical and process addictions.
Yeah.
And and I'm not an addiction person.
You've never met an OnlyFans.
I can't say either way. I'm sorry, what?
I just don't think he knows people with OnlyFans and stuff. Like, again, ask an OnlyFans model, or ask are we talking about having body sensations with dependence and withdrawal? Like, what classifies an addiction? Because all of those things happen.
Yeah. I've worked with a number of guys who describe like what sound like debilitating withdrawals from going a few days without pornography.
Mm.
Oh, and I mean, all the research shows that as well. Like
Yeah.
deep depression, symptoms of grief. Like, I think that, again, maybe we're just trying to be trendy in the way of like, oh, it's not an addiction, but we can't even back that up with the studies that look at like chemical reactions in the brain. I mean, like we can bring up the brain scans that like a hit of heroin can look just as much as a hit from whatever your choice of pornography or sexual explicit material is. So like the brain is the thing that can't lie.
And
The
it's been
brain
more
is
difficult than ever to treat because, I mean, 10 years ago when I was treating sex addiction, I wasn't like, now wait, don't look up workouts on your algorithm on Instagram because that's gonna, like, don't even look up leggings. Like, forget that, right? Like, leggings have done a number on my clients already. So, yeah, I mean, it's such a dangerous world out there where they are one click away from inappropriate material. It used to be, okay, can't watch Game of Thrones. It's only like 4 minutes long if you take out the sex scenes, but every single thing on the internet is one click away.
Well, and
Personal
when we
confession real quick. That's why I deleted my Instagram account. I didn't want to keep seeing that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I've had to be very careful with my relationship with X, because X is like the super highway for sexual material right now, because it's the way that you can get past like most of the state restrictions, where there is a threshold that happened when you have some of these states that now have made it so that you have to identify yourself or somehow be able to prove that you're over 18 to access certain websites. There's been this freak out or panic of where can I then get this material, because I don't want to put my government ID into something, right? I'm going to lose the anonymity that I used to enjoy, right? And so what's interesting though in that process is you have something like X, which is just about freedom of speech, but is being used in such malicious ways. And just to sort of piggyback on what Sarah was also saying, I think that when I look at like 10 years of being in addiction work, the difference was 10 years ago, we didn't have predatory algorithms. And so once we really saw social media make that move into realizing that every single individual was essentially an unmined resource in a marketing capacity, then what's really sad, and there's been studies done on this, unfortunately nothing has happened out of it. Many different lawsuits have tried to push this through, but if we take if you sign up as a 13-year-old female on Instagram and you just put together a fake profile and jump in, just pay attention to how the algorithm treats you. Now, as a 13-year-old male, also take a peek at what that algorithm does. And the algorithms do play you in opposite directions in malicious ways. And what's interesting is how maybe you're getting all the leggings videos in the 13-year-old girl on what she's supposed to look like. But on the male side, all of a sudden, the study showed you could be 2 clicks away from sexually explicit material.
Oh, yeah.
And all you did was tell them I'm a male and I'm 13 years old.
Yeah, in John Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, I think it says like 80% of kids have seen porn by the age of 11. I mean, which is high numbers. And I know, again, from my experiences working with adolescents, and every parent I ask, so how'd you talk to them about the porn use? And they're like, we didn't, right? I mean, like, yeah, I knew my mom had a dildo from Spencer's, or like, yeah, my dad might have a Playboy, but I wasn't like, and so I know those concepts existed, but I didn't know we lived in a porn world, like a truly anytime, all the time you could be in it. So I do think that also is very difficult generationally, because these parents, I think there's some like, oh, I know my kid's gonna masturbate, so we gotta let them. Like, the boys are gonna be boys, they're gonna do it, and they're not knowing, like, well, yeah, they just went out with meth. Like, that's what happened for the first time. They get to pick from the wheel of what they want to do, and so I just think we don't know how to talk to each other about it at all. And I ask most couples, do you know what your partner looks up in porn, 90% of people have no idea. So
I used to work in a school and had a mom come in one time. She was having trouble with her middle school son, and she was like, "He won't give me the password to his phone." And I was like, "Oh, dear," like, and yeah, "Why does he have a phone, ma'am?"
mhm.
And she didn't like that question very much. And then I was like, "You can turn off his data, right?" And I think I got a complaint for that one.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah, so I mean, that's the resistance that pops up. Is like,
Yeah.
ooh, it's going to require more work on my side, or I'm inevitably going to have the conversation that Sarah's talking about.
Yeah.
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 I ask parents, do you want to be an accomplice in the crime against your child? Because that's essentially when we
That's
let
a great question.
silence do our speaking, we're allowing that there is a level of choice in that.
Mm.
I think there's a complete different. I mean, I've chewed out my fair share of parents who have gone the wrong way of like, let's shame and guilt for oh, you walk in on your 13-year-old son and I hit him with the Bible and I did that. Like, let's have a conversation here. First of all,
Mhm.
you didn't identify with him that the fact is what he's doing, instant gratification, it felt great. I can understand why you did it, but let's talk about the dangers behind it. Instead, we just say, that's bad. And then we're surprised that we have high levels of dissatisfaction in relationships when we look at faith-based long-term relationships, because we were told that no, once we got married, then sex was awesome. But we never talked about the fact that like these are beautiful components in a relationship that should be done in a way where we mutually feel safe.
Mm. And you talked about that with the married couples a little bit earlier, and I wanted to comment, but I think we are at a disadvantage societally because the people who are happily married, a core feature of intimacy is that it is only between the two of you. And so you're not going to go and share with the world how amazing your life is. Because on one end, it would feel like bragging, and then it would just feel crude. And then it, it's a violation of the intimacy
Mm-hmm.
to go and tell that, because intimacy is between those two people. Um, and so everybody hears all the bad and all the unhappy, and the people who aren't married or the people who have had a string of terrible relationships. And like, it's just, we're not, there's no way that you're going to hear the good from that long-term happily married people, because that's just a violation of being a long-term happily married person, is to share those details with the world. Like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think there's also a confusion of like, so yeah, you're not going to have the OnlyFans response from the healthy relationships, but I mean, being able to speak out on the capacity of like emotional intimacy. I mean, why are we also afraid to say like, hey, in this committed relationship, we're extremely happy with our sex life? Like, that's all we have to really go through. But it's interesting how even that is taboo to share.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just how we can connect and how you can actually find intimacy amongst households with, again, kids under the age of 3. Like, instead, we talk about how much work kids are and how it's soul sucking, this, that, and the other. And there's beautiful aspects of these relationships that we never cover. I just also wonder, why are we allowing only one side to hold the bullhorn?
Mm. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. That's what I mean.
So I'd like to get back into the area of Megan's expertise, and that's AI girlfriends, virtual relationships, and stuff like that. To me, this seems like it has the potential long term to be worse than porn. And I'm thinking about like I can design my ideal partner.
Oh no, you
We can have a
froze.
book club where we all read the exact same books. We watch the same shows. We like the same things. We never fight. She always compliments me. You know what I mean? And then we can have this kind of quasi sexual relationship that looks however I want it to look. I'm kind of creating this fake relationship, but it seems like having no downsides. To me, that seems like a deeper and more potent version of what porn is trying to do.
Yes, because the two very often go hand in hand. Because
Go on.
yeah, like, because you've got the AI girlfriend or the AI boyfriend, um, and part of that relationship, much like a real life relationship, has sexual components, because you can use AI to generate porn of whatever character or person you have created in AI. It's okay. So like an example, this is a made up analogy example, but like think about the woman who really got hooked on 50 Shades of Grey, right? And so like she got crazy over that man character. So she makes an AI boyfriend, and then suddenly the guy from 50 Shades of Grey is texting her all this like stuff all the time. And so she gets really hooked on into that. But like she's not just doing the AI chat because well heck, they made a movie. You could just go watch the movie. like you can get AI generated like pornographic content. So it's got the emotional piece and the pornographic piece. And like people get really, really deep into this, and it almost in every facet feels like a real relationship.
And
it
I
is
just want to, I want to share the caveat just so we give some people credit, because my male clients are making their AI nag them. So they do want that.
Okay.
They like nagging.
What?
Oh, yes. So don't.
Is it like a sexual thing, or what's the deal with the nagging? Why would you?
You just want to. Are you Irish, Ryan? Like, I don't understand.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, you don't
On
want
St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, you don't want a woman that nags you? Come on. Like, that's, I mean.
It's like to make it more realistic, or what?
Yeah, and they like it. I mean, men like that. Or are used to it, whatever you want to call it. But, yeah, so they're not always perfect. Because I've been introduced or whatever, however you want to call it, to someone's AI person, and she was not nice. And so I was like, oh, like she's not, and he goes, oh yeah, I don't want someone who just is going to say yes to anything. So as much as you can make the perfectly nice person, you can make the perfectly rude person as well to fit your needs.
Well, and then the interesting thing about that though is the person that they make speaks to the psychodynamic and the relational need that's missing.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Always.
So I was not an expert on these things. It's just the cases that fell into my lap. I took them as they, and it was like, okay. So my first question is always, okay, just tell me more about that. Tell me everything that there is to tell me about that. I'm really curious. And then, so they tell me about the person, the AI girlfriend, the AI boyfriend. And it's like, okay, I do want to know about the character and quality of that AI because it's a reflection of the person themselves.
Yes.
Because it's fake. Like it's not a real another person out in the universe for you to like meet and join with. It's almost and a little bit like narcissistic in a way sometimes because it's almost a reflection of themselves as an individual. It's fascinating.
It's almost like they create a version of what they don't believe they could create in reality.
Yes.
Like like I had another therapist tell me that it's like direct shadow work, which is essentially what you're saying.
Yeah.
So the implicit assumption behind a lot of the porn, I know women watch porn, but I think a lot of us are kind of implicitly assuming this is predominantly a male issue. How much of an issue is like visual porn for women? And then something I see a lot is like, rather than watching like videos, it's smut with like women. How much of an issue do you think that is?
Yeah, smut's a real issue. I mean, what's interesting about the porn and like AI and harm reduction is I've used it for people who are visually like addicted, and then I just say, okay, well, let's just go to audio. Let's go to just stories, right? So AI is really good in some senses for that, and art, and you want to go even farther, get James Cantor on here, who thinks like AI is going to help sex offenders. So why not give a sex offender an AI child to be messing with instead of them really going out in real life? So it's this really delicate thing. And then AI spiritually has really come up. So as much as there's girlfriends, I might tell someone who has a girlfriend, well, yeah, what about Jesus, make that person come in your relationship, or Uncle Henry who's rude. Like, so it's weird because I've used AI for harm reduction for sure. And just kind of take it back, and see if you can still get, the intended
Well,
result.
I've kind of gone at it at the back end before, like, so you've got this relationship, it's AI, but you're here because you're dissatisfied. Okay, so like any other relationship, what do you do when you're dissatisfied with a relationship?
Mhm.
Like, and the two options are end the relationship or repair the relationship and build real intimacy. And in my clinical opinion, I don't believe you can build real intimacy with an AI because it's not real. So,
But something is happening. I mean,
but
I-
on 100% on every level,
yeah.
it feels
What
real
what is
for the
real though?
individual. It
Yeah,
absolutely feels real for the individual.
yeah.
Well, and then was it
Like, I'll take a
Adam?
prescription from an AI doctor tomorrow. I'm serious, and that
Yeah,
we're very
that's
close
true.
to that, right?
We
Like,
are.
what is and an AI midwife? I seen it, and it's wild. Like,
Mm,
so that's real comfort, right?
yep.
Like, that's getting something, and oh man, if it makes an emergency room people feel like they're being heard, is that worth it? Like, so there's so many. It's one of those things of how much do you give in to something? Is it going to take over
Yeah.
anyways? And how do you balance that?
AI teachers,
Oh, yeah.
matter of time before you get an AI priest.
Oh, it's already
You-
happened.
Oh, okay.
The AI
Good there.
spiritual world is wild.
I consulted ChatGPT for some spiritual issues, and I'll say like answer as Timothy Keller or what. It's weird.
It's wild. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So this kind of feels like we're accelerating to something. I don't know what. What is the future of AI girlfriends, virtual relationships, pornography, smut? Like where are we headed?
I don't know. It's very sad because I feel like it's completely changed the relationship dynamics between humans, but particularly young people, because I spent a period of time the last couple years working on a college campus with some college kids, and it has reversed the way they date.
Yes.
It's almost made the females the pursuers and the males the distancers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very strange. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, like just me as a therapist, I'm like having to like relearn these relational social dynamics because this is not the dating world that I met my husband in.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And we're going to see sex work on a whole other level, because I do think the real quote unquote intimacy, like just seeing the cuddle work increase in the last 10 years, right?
Cuddle work?
Yeah, cuddlers,
yeah.
professional cuddling. I
You're
mean,
not familiar with cuddlers, Ryan?
I am out of the loop on all this stuff.
I don't know.
Sorry.
That's so like 8 years ago, but
Okay.
like,
There's-
but they're going to want to try out sex, so they're just going to pay for it instead of go out and seek it. So I think that's where we're going to see of like, oh yeah, they're going to be desperate for real life encounters, not know how to do it, and not for nothing. They're not literally going to be able to do it because a woman's vagina is so overstimulating when you've been getting off to your hand for 10,000 times that like it makes them go like not erect. So they're going to have to learn how to be in body. We're going to have to teach people how to have the embodied experience and value that. And I will just assume we're going to have more relationships online, like
yeah.
living, people going to work online and living online in different ways than ever before.
It's just
I,
sad.
I'm.
I think it's
It,
terrible.
it is.
It's terrible.
I mean, it is bleak. I still have hope that
Yeah.
that individuals can lean into the truth, but I do think that there's going to be a large segment of the population that's going to just be willing to accept this as normal.
Mark
to
Zuckerberg is excited that
Yeah.
you'll have 4 friends. Like, that's what friends are now.
Yeah, I mean, and there's even talk about like how that's going to spread across the social media platforms, is these AIs are actually going to have profiles and whatnot and followings, and like you're actually, we're getting into the spot where if you're paying attention to what Hollywood's trying to do right now, Hollywood's trying to differentiate itself because they're recognizing as actors we might be done. People aren't going to be caring about Brad Pitt if we have an AI version that's better and never ages, right? Like this, like we're toast.
And Matthew McConaughey did sell his likeness. So, I mean, he has given it to Hollywood to do what they will do. So, yes, that will be, will they be in business? Well, what will that look like? In the streamer world, right? I mean, I'm just starting to really realize what's going on in that. And, you know, my kids' friends already are making money off TikToks, right? And these are 13-year-olds. And once that starts, where are you gonna, how are you gonna convince them to go pick up a hammer?
True. It's, for me, another aspect of this is it's, I think it's going to get externalized one way or another. Robotics is coming around. And so basically AI is going to load into robotics. And then at that point, we have really just reduced each other down to, I guess, I've talked about this with my couples clients of like, how many times do you engage in sexual activities, but you're actually having solo experiences?
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to be navigating, is that people are going to, I'm just going to get a robot and I'm going to be fine with it. I mean, Europe is dealing with this on a massive scale because they can't get 30-year-old men to marry. They don't want to. Why? Because I'm getting my basic needs met already through these other avenues.
And do you know where the latest, they said in the last 2 years, that somewhere of 30% of porn is now being done during the drive because we have self-driving cars? So whereas we used to be able to, like, there'd be some issues like, hey, do you use porn at work? Well, now people aren't even driving, so they're just masturbating on their way to work with porn. I mean, and it's given to them. So the more, like, all these other things are being done for us, it's almost like the more time people are using to be sexually adventurous or whatever you want to call it, filling this time.
This almost seems like this is an extreme example, but I don't know if it's too exaggerated. Like a version of the Matrix, except for like we know we're in it, we're voluntarily there because like we get all the needs met from this virtual world, and the real world is boring and it causes anxiety and there's discomfort. You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't I live in the Matrix?
Yep, that's Elon's Neuralink. You got it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, oh, go ahead, Megan.
Well, I like to think, like Adam, like hopefully there will be even if it's a small portion of the population, who realizes what a wonderful thing real life is and real relationships can be. And because on some level, well, on a level, everybody wants that. Even if they're involved in porn, even if they're in AI relationships, they want the real thing. And so, like, I think just as humans, like, we know deep down inside inherently that there is some deep spiritual value in it. And
Conviction is a real thing.
so maybe we go off the rails for a little while, and then we'll probably learn a bad lesson from it, and then maybe society will just be like, wait a minute, we shouldn't have done that, and then maybe we'll successfully backtrack in 10 years and realize what a terrible mistake we've made.
I'm just humbled to be able to have colleagues like you guys, like to know that there's other people out there that are also fighting for sort of like lighting the fires of Gondor. Like, here we are of like to your point. So here's the crazy thing. We're just 3 voices, right? But the reality is what we've talked about is present within a 1 mile radius of everyone who's going to listen and hear this,
Yeah.
right? Like and the problem is there's not enough voices saying this is actually crazy. Like you should not go down this. Like,
I don't need
I mean,
this much job security.
no, not at
Right?
all.
Like there was enough before this.
Like it's interesting that I've actually heard from parents who have suggested to their kids to practice socializing with females with AI. And that's where I feel like we're just opening the door. And I'm like, well, because, yeah, I mean, they can just practice and they can get some of the slang down and the pickup lines. And I was like, and then at some point they're going to say, this is easier. Like, this is easier. You know, it blew me away a year ago. I had a client come to me that really like blew the lid off of the AI thing for me, because in our assessment, I mean, to what Megan was talking about, the AI is sending him text messages. The AI is leaving voicemails on his phone. The AI is sending a pic that says, "Oh, just thinking of you." Like, this is here. It's a real life. But the interaction and then the AI he was on, there was a pay to play side of it where it just continued to ratchet up how much it was going to cost to get to the next level. And I mean, you think about it, we're already living in Ready Player One. Like this, we are here.
It's a better analogy than the Matrix.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
Yeah,
and
I get it. Go ahead.
one thing we should probably do as a society is like really advocate, I don't know if it needs to be like politically or just socially, of like this, like the targeted feed or the targeted stream that like sends you just crap that you don't need, especially to minors. Like we're probably going to have to do something about that. I mean, because it's just gotten ridiculous. Okay. Facebook knew I was pregnant before I took the test.
What?
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I'm getting all these baby ads. Took a test. Oh, pregnant.
That
It
is
knew.
insane.
I don't know. Like, how does it know? Yeah. And so, yeah. And well, and there was and it's all of us. Like, whatever your thing is, they're going to send it to you. That's going to be the thing that triggers you to either buy something or react a certain way. There was another commenter on X, a new mom that's like, for some reason now the algorithm is sending all the new moms tragedy stories about terrible things that can happen to your children.
Yep.
And
I'm a 38. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan. What?
Okay, I'm a 38-year-old male, and I can tell the algorithm over the last few years has started feeding me a lot of hair loss products, low testosterone, erectile dysfunction. I'm like, this is what you think of the algorithm?
How'd you get this from my profile picture? Right? Like, I've been so pissed that all it does is send me fried foods. It knows I'm fat. Damn it.
And so it's like we've got to do away with that.
Yeah, and I think I
like,
think Ryan, we need another podcast for this, and I don't know if I'm saying the right word. I need to look it up. Mubarak. Do you guys have clients watching that yet?
No idea.
So it's one of the biggest categories in like TikTok, and I think it's porn. It's porn adjacent. So Mubarak is where you watch people eat food, but it's like big food. Like, so someone's really eating all the ASMR, and now my kids they're just watching it, and now they're not hungry because it's getting like the dopamine hit of you're getting full. Oh, look it up. I'll apologize ahead of time because it's gross. But
that's crazy.
That's one of the biggest, like,
people are going to be using that for weight loss after these shots.
Oh, 100.
Oh my gosh, this is wild.
Yep, it's very like, mukbangs.
Mukbangs. That's what I was wondering, if that's what we were talking about.
Yes, mukbangs.
I mean, and some of like the pioneers of mukbangs, what's interesting is to see like how many of them have died.
Yeah.
Or the difference of like 3-year, but these people were making millions of dollars doing this. And
kids aren't eating. And I was like, wow, this kid's really using this like porn. Like I'm just sitting there watching and then I don't even need to eat. I don't need to, it makes me not hungry. I get the feeling of full from watching someone else enjoy food. And that's like, whoa. Oh yeah, look up mukbangs and thank me later.
That is
that's
nuts.
awful.
Yeah.
Did you have something, Megan?
Well, it's almost like the people who make AI children. Like, as to be a parent.
Yeah.
Not for sex, but like.
For grief?
Yeah.
I had one that broke my heart, but I had a client that like had developed this AI version of a pregnancy loss. And it was like, I don't know where to go with that one. I can completely understand, but at some point in the road, heartache is coming. Like I don't.
Yeah. Well.
So I like to close this type of podcast with a solution, like how do we fix this type of stuff? And I want to say my solution first, and that is I have a porn blocker called Covenant Eyes on all of my devices, including this laptop I'm recording on and my phone. And I think that's a great tool to use. But I would like to kick it to y'all. We've touched on this some, but what do y'all think?
I love Covenant Eyes. I think like where I go with a lot of my clients is if you have children that are getting to be sexually active or sexual age, I think that there needs to be conversations on just healthy sexual activities. And that's not wear a condom. It's the understanding of like what physical intimacy looks like, why you might benefit from being in committed relationships. We're trying to shame people into living good lives, and that's why the church has lost this situation. Is you cannot shame and guilt someone into living a better life. You have to actually meet them where they are and talk about it. We need to talk about how the fantasies you're wanting to create with AI can actually be realities within a committed long-term relationship.
Yeah.
So I love both of those, but I would also say get rid of this AI targeting people, like, and it's hurt all of us in whatever various form it's targeting us, whether that be food, porn, or like fear, fear-based anxiety, like what's going to happen to your children.
Yes, talk to the children and like Adam said, teach kids how to be a good lover, because that's what we're missing out on.
Yeah. Well, and put the porn blocker on your kid's phone. Like, and know your kid's phone's password. Like, do random checks. Like, your child should not be entitled to privacy on the internet from you as the parent. Ever.
And to piggyback on what you're saying there also, Megan, is I think that as adults, we need to start holding ourselves in the same conviction we hold our children. So if you've got a porn blocker on their phone, if you're saying that this isn't what we shouldn't be doing, it's the hypocrisy of telling your kid that they shouldn't be looking at certain reels, and then you and your wife are watching Game of Thrones, right? Like, that's why they don't believe you.
Yeah.
Because you tell me not to do that, but then every single movie you like, there is explicit material inside of it.
Yes.
Agreed.
So damn it, we have to do what we say.
Practice what you preach. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. This was a wonderful panel. I certainly got I learned a lot, definitely. Y'all enlightened my view of this thing. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.